Less than a week ago, NBA superstar Ja Morant went on the record saying he was not worried about any team in the Western Conference. Fast forward a couple of days, and Kevin Durant, yes, that Kevin Durant, has once again lit the NBA universe on fire. As in the middle of the night, we all learned he is heading back to the Western Conference, joining the Phoenix Suns. And in return for KD and TJ Warren, the Nets get Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 picks. Now, in the past, we've seen blockbuster trades involving NBA stars, but very rarely, if ever, do you see a player of Kevin Durant's caliber so late in his career get traded in the middle of the night. And heading back to the Western Conference, and specifically to the Suns, this is a massive bailout for KD as well as Phoenix. As in the Eastern Conference, even with Kyrie Irving, you had Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, maybe even Cleveland, who were better all-around teams. And after trading Kyrie to Dallas, that team in Brooklyn was going nowhere fast, with Dinwiddie and Claxton as KD's 2 best teammates. And staying on Brooklyn for 1 second, this trade right here is a nail in the coffin to their franchise and the end of the KD Nets era that only featured 1 playoff series win. An absolute dumpster fire and all-time collapse for an organization that historically makes blunderous moves. Now, looking back at Durant, this trade was a massive bailout and a blessing for him, as finally he is cutting the cord after 4 nightmare seasons and heading to the Western Conference to a Suns team that has made the finals and won 64 games only last season. Now, looking at this year, they're definitely a lot worse off, only being 30-26 and 5th in the Western Conference. The harsh reality is that Sun team was on a fast track to another second round exit, and with this move, they are putting all their chips in the middle of the table for 1 or maybe 2 championship runs. That line of thinking for a lot of NBA teams seems to be more common day after day, and with the Suns, this is a massive gamble that has failed numerous teams. And looking at their big 4 or their big 3.5, you have Chris Paul, Booker, Ayton, and KD. When it comes to Western Conference, off sheer star power, this Suns team is by far the best. And trading for Kevin Durant takes him from a Tier 2 championship team in the West to definitively a Tier 1 team, up there with Denver and behind Boston and Milwaukee as the favorites to win the championship. And looking at Phoenix's newest duo, that being KD and Booker, this right here is all anyone should care about, as both these guys are in the top tier of versatile offensive players when it comes to controlling the pace, finding shooters, getting their own shot, or getting shots for teammates. And when it comes to scoring, right now KD and Booker combined are averaging 56.5 points and are 2 of the rare players who can score at all 3 levels. And yes, I am projecting, but when it comes to the best overall duos like Embiid and Harden, LeBron AD, Tatum and Brown, KD and Booker 100% on the top echelon of the best duos. And more importantly than that, both KD and Book have proven time and time again they can be effective without having the ball 24/7, which allows CP3 to do his own thing, be the floor general, and the point guard like he usually is. And one more thing I do want to note for the Suns team offensively, when it comes to their spacing, what I envision is a 4-out 1-in situation with Ayton playing at the elbow on the block, setting screens, getting dump-off passes, and easy lobs. And when it comes to KD and Booker, their driving lanes are going to be wide open. And their 2 best shooters, that being Damon Lee and Torrey Craig, who both shoot above 40%, are going to be vital to the spacing and the overall success of the bench and the starters. And when it comes to playoff time, I envision one of those guys making some big impact play, whether it be Damon Lee shooting or Torrey Craig playing lockdown defense. Now, speaking of defense, losing Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson are huge losses, as right now the Suns are 5th in opponents' points per game and 8th in defensive rating. But losing those 2 guys, who are the ideal 3-and-D players in the NBA, that is a massive loss. And much like Dallas, this Phoenix team essentially is going all in on the offensive end. And what they're going to do, they're going to outscore you and not out-defend you. And yes, getting Kevin Durant is a massive move, a massive upgrade, offensively speaking. And one of KD, Booker, CP3 will have to step up big time on defense on the perimeter. Or like last year, they're going to get cooked by Luka Doncic or some NBA star. And I don't want to keep being negative, but this is a reality. Looking at Kevin Durant and CP3, these guys get injured a lot. And in the past, for these so-called super teams, one tweaked ankle, one pulled hammy can end them in a heartbeat. And for CP3, when it comes to playoffs at the vital times, it always seems like he's hurt, banged up, sick, or not 100%. And for KD, he's injured right now, and since 2019 has missed major time every single season. I am not wishing injury upon them, I'm just acknowledging the facts. Both KD and CP3 are injury-prone players. And it's moved by the Suns. While it is a big splash, we've seen these teams in the past fail big time, whether it be the Clippers, the Nets, or the Big Three Lakers. As actual basketball on the court isn't a video game like 2K where you get the best players and automatically win the championship. And speaking of the best players, for Kevin Durant, in his career, he's had a couple. That being Westbrook, James Harden, Kyrie, Curry, Clay, Draymond, now Booker, and CP3. That list of teammate help right there would go 82-0. And for someone like Chris Paul, it's even worse, as despite his numerous teammates and Hall of Fame players, his championship count is still 0. For this Suns team right here, there are so many storylines, so many legacies, all at play in this year's postseason. And for Kevin Durant, the pressure right now has been cranked up to an 11. As the Suns right now have a legit big three, they're the favorites, they have pieces, they have the coach, but come playoff time, can they get 16 wins in April, May, and June? That is to be determined, but at this point in time, in my personal view, they're not the favorites, but they're very close to it. And the last thing I do want to touch on is Kevin Durant and his overall basketball legacy. KD being 34 going 35, having played on 4 different teams, and only won 2 titles in Golden State, his legacy is not looking as good as it could be. As if you simmed his career on 2K, I think this scenario is one of the top 5 worst outcomes. As since the 2019 finals and leaving Golden State, he's won a total of 1 playoff series, and pairing with Kyrie and James Harden was an all-time historic disaster and dumpster fire. And now in Phoenix, if he doesn't win a championship with this team that is loaded with star power, great offensive teammates, it's going to be really rough sledding heading into 2024, 2025, and beyond. And I do want to be very clear, I'm not saying KD in Phoenix will struggle or not get his numbers, because per usual, he always puts up stats, averages 30, and plays phenomenal. What I am wary of is him getting injured, CP3 getting injured, and the overall team not meshing, and the defense not being up to par. With that being said, it was still a blockbuster move, it shook the NBA, and KD going to Phoenix was one of the all-time craziest trades in NBA history. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.